After an early dinner, Marco invites me to go on a drive with him. He takes me out of the capital, driving for miles until we reach a glen on the outskirts of the kingdom. He tells me that we're in the Blue Moon Pack. It's impressive to see how expansive the kingdom of Mater truly is, and I'm reminded of how much power his family holds to rule over all of this, even the territories inhabited by other packs. I want to show you something. Marco parks the car, and we walk for a short while, reaching a beautiful clearing in the glen. At the heart of the small valley is an enormous tree with hundreds of little beautiful flowers. I'd never seen it before, but I immediately recognize where we are. Even I've heard the wondrous stories of the Blue Moon Tree. Legend says the ancient tree was blessed by the moon goddess herself many centuries ago. And those beautiful flowers around the tree must be the blue moon flowers. People are gathered in the open space, some walking around peacefully, while others sit or kneel by the tree in prayer or meditation. Many of them are couples. This is where my parents met many years ago. They crossed paths right under the tree, and it was love at first sight. I gasp softly at Marco's words. According to folklore, the tree is not only considered a sacred space, but a holy relic for lovers. As we walk closer, I can see dozens and dozens of multicolored ribbons tied around the branches of the tree. It is said that if you visit the tree with your lover and tie a ribbon around one of its branches, the Blue Moon Tree will grant your wish and bless your love, so you can be together forever. Marco says none of this, but there's something new in his expression that makes my heart flutter. Did you ever come here with Lily to make a wish together? I ask, trying to keep my tone impartial. I barely manage to bite back the smile on my lips when he says, "Number." I know I shouldn't get my hopes up, but maybe bringing me here is a sign that Marco has started to truly care for me, even if it's just a little. My tentative speculation and blissful hopes are interrupted by the sound of a man yelling. How can they give such an order? The screaming man is young and handsome, quite like a fox. He's probably in his 20s or early 30s. He's tall and lean, with an elegant and remarkably muscular build. He has an unshaven beard on his chin, as well as kind eyes. He holds his head high while another flustered fellow trips over himself. To hold him back, the Blue Moon Tree is sacred to our pack, and ow. He cries out as the shorter, anxious man steps on him by accident, but the tall, handsome man ignores him. No, my friend, I will not calm down. I want to go to the capital and fight this. Get off me, good sir. He bats away, the flustered fellow. The two men struggle somewhat comically and mutter intangibly before scurrying off, looking rather agitated. Once they've wandered off, Marco and I continue our stroll, walking up to the Blue Moon Tree. The sun is beginning to set over the horizon, casting a gentle, fading glow over the peaceful landscape. Marco watches me with patient curiosity as I trail my fingers along the leaves of the drooping branches. The blue moon flower petals give off a lovely floral scent, and I can suddenly understand why this place is considered so special. On the branches, there's a whimsical assortment of bows, ribbons, string, and scraps of fabric, each colorful little knot representing a wish, fluttering in the wind. The Blue Moon Tree is beyond beautiful. It's magical. I can feel Marco's eyes burning on my soul bond, watching my every move as I reach for the rosy pink ribbon I'd used earlier to tie up my hair in a half-updo. Soft black waves fall over my shoulders as I untie the bow from my hair and extend the ribbon toward him. Will you make a wish with me? I'd like to pray for our unborn child's happiness. I ask him shyly. Something glimmers in his eyes, and it makes my soul sing. After a long moment, he gives a small nod together. We reach for the nearest low-hanging branch, and he takes one end of the ribbon while I take the other. Our fingers brush against each other as soft as a breeze. We tie the ribbon around the drooping branch, making our holy wish as pure as a promise. I close my eyes, and we stay there for a while, our hands just barely touching. When I open my eyes again, the sun has finished setting, but I find that the world has not gone dark. Instead, the blue moon flowers are glowing around me with a soft blue light that twinkles like starlight at my fingertips. My lips part at the sheer beauty of it. But when I turn to face Marco, I find that he's only looking at me. How is this possible? He tears his eyes away from mine to take in the shining petals, bioluminescent flowers. They only grow on the blue moon tree. No other land in the world has them. Extraordinary. I stand there surrounded by the hopes and wishes made by generation after generation of lovers, fluttering in the breeze with flowers that twinkle like stars. And I know without a doubt that I will treasure this moment for the rest of my life. Sayend. Sem 20U. The next day, Marco and I have returned to the capital and are back to everyday life. I spend the morning working with Lady Vivian's home for my apprenticeship. As we wrap up the latest batch of fragrances we've been working on, Vivian pulls me aside and excitedly hands me a piece of paper. What's this? I ask, scanning the writing on the sheet. It's an application for this year's National Perfume Contest. It's a very prestigious competition that's well known throughout the kingdom. This year is particularly special because they've changed the price. In the past, winners simply got praise and acclaim for winning the contest. But starting this year, the best perfumer will be awarded the opportunity of a lifetime. The first place winner gets their perfume advertised across the kingdom, as well as the offer to partner with several retailers that would allow you to sell your work at an unprecedented scale. It's an amazing business opportunity. I take the application form gratefully. This competition would be perfect for you. It's a wonderful chance for your work to get the exposure it deserves and build your brand. This kind of recognition could skyrocket your career. Anxious butterflies flutter in my stomach with equal measures of nerves and excitement. Do you really think I should enter? Would I even stand a chance at winning? Vivian offers me her signature warm and nurturing smile. Of course you do, young lady. I wouldn't suggest it otherwise. You are my apprentice after all, and there hasn't been a gift like yours in a while. Not even my talented daughter possesses your natural silence. I survey the application, reading over some of the questionnaires, but it says I need a referral to apply for the competition. I muse. Vivian pinches my chin tenderly. And if you decide to enter, I would be more than happy to sponsor you. Just say the word, and I'll write the referral letter myself. Promise me you'll think about it. At the very least, it wouldn't hurt to consider it. Okay, I promise. Chapter 1 has come to a close. Please stay with us as we read through the rest of this story. If you are watching, please give us a like and leave a comment telling us where you are tuning in from. Now, let's continue listening. I am walking back home with excitement clearly written all over my face. I have a bright smile on my face while I cling the application form closely to my heart. When I consider how my life has drastically changed, I am very surprised. My life has gotten much better, and I have a number of people to be grateful for. One of those people is Lady Vivian, Lily's mother. We've only known each other for a couple of months, and it feels as though we've known each other since forever. She is slowly becoming the mother I never had. I finished early with Lady Vivian, and I want to enjoy an evening stroll before I reach home. My stroll takes me by the main gate of the palace. The main gate is truly a majestic work of art. It is adorned with gold and shines brightly under the evening sun. The gate was also peaceful. I expect to feel the same peace as I walk by, but a loud noise startles me. I look towards the gate and am surprised to see the guards forcefully toss a man out of the palace. He lands very rough and awkward on the floor, and I am worried that they've hurt him. I am about to go check on him, but he is already on his feet in a flash. He doesn't bother to dust the sand off his body before he starts yelling at the guards. I am quite surprised that he hit the ground so hard and doesn't even have a bruise on his body. I think he might be a powerful werewolf, maybe even an alpha of a pack. He is obviously angry, but his exaggerated gesticulations almost make him look like a court jester. He is gesticulating so hard that it is hard not to laugh at him. I am amused by the way he gestures wildly with his hands, and I wait to watch the drama. How dare you? He is yelling towards the palace. How dare you give such orders? Even if you're the Lycans, you can't give such horrendous orders without consorting the concerned pack. The guards just stare at him as though he is invisible. Their silence must have infuriated him further, because he begins to yell louder and curse the royal family. After a few minutes of causing a scene, he realizes that it is yielding no results. I am the alpha of my pack, and I will be back for you. He threatens and turns to walk away. It is when he turns that I am able to see his face clearly. My amusement turns to surprise when I see his face clearly. He is the exact same man I saw arguing with another man under the blue moon tree. I am surprised as to what he is doing in the palace. I hastily clear the thought off my mind. Marco will soon be back and I need to get his dinner ready. See end. See Hallwend. The next day. Making breakfast for Marco always makes me happy, and today is no different. I carefully serve his toasted pancake on the table after giving him a generous amount of syrup by the side. The morning sun is already shining brightly, and I wonder why Marco is not yet awake. He usually wakes up very early in the morning because of the nightmares he has in his sleep. But recently he seems to be waking up late. I walk to his door and knock gently. When I get no response, I knock slightly harder, still no response. I slowly push the door open, and am relieved when I see him sleeping peacefully on his bed. There is something peaceful and alluring about the way Marco sleeps. His usual cold, troubled expression has disappeared. He now has a soft, almost childish expression on his face. As he sleeps, his face is filled with peace, innocence, and comfort. I smile softly as I gaze at his face. Marco is so handsome that I get butterflies in my stomach just by looking at him. Marco turns on the bed, and I see him clutching tightly the perfume I made for him. Joy fills me up when I realize that my perfume might be the reason he is sleeping peacefully. I am proud of myself because I can also help Marco with something he really needs. He has helped me a lot, and I feel very happy that I can help him in return, no matter how small. His lips slightly curl into a lazy, sleepy smile. They are so soft, pink, and kissable. I am intrigued by his beautiful lips, and I unconsciously stretch my hand to feel them. My finger is just a few inches from his lips when I feel his eyes on me. I look at his face and am startled to see that his blue eyes are wide open and staring at me. Shocked, I hastily jump back away from him. He has an amused look on his sleepy face. He doesn't say anything but keeps staring at me. I am embarrassed and I hastily explain myself. I wanted to wake you for breakfast, I murmur. My heart is beating very fast and I am too shy to look at his face. I'll join you soon. Marco replies, and I detect a small chuckle in his voice. I am flustered while I hastily walk away from his room to the dining. I blush as I remember the awkward but sweet moment in his bedroom. Marco joins me for breakfast. A few minutes later, and we eat in silence. I will come home late today, I tell Marco, breaking the silence. Why? He raises an inquiring eyebrow. I want to visit the messenger mage this evening to thank her for giving me really good advice. I smile shyly. It seems like I'll change my schedule too. A mysterious smile plays on the corner of Marco's lips. I cast a puzzled glance at him, but he doesn't give an explanation. My day at work is smooth and filled with happiness. The messenger mage has helped me so much, and I am excited to talk to her again. I glance at the wall clock and realize that it is closing hours. I quickly clear my table and prepare to close. I am just stepping out of my office when Ella stops me. Tanya, she smiles. You're just the person I'm looking for. Me? I ask, surprised. What's wrong? Nothing. Lily just sent me to find you. She replies and walks away. See you tomorrow. Lily? I mutter, me. I can't help the bad feeling that slowly creeps up on me, but I can do nothing else than slowly pick my way to her office. I am just about to knock on her door when I hear Lily's voice. It seems like she is talking to someone. I am about to leave and come back later when I hear her call a name that is dear to me. Marco. Lily's voice drifts from her office. Although I know it's wrong, I just can't help it. I am too curious to leave, so I eavesdrop at the door. I think I misheard, but I hear it again. Clearly this time. Marco, look at me, she says. My heart suddenly picks up pace as myriads of questions flitter through my mind. What is Marco doing in Lily's office? Why didn't he tell me? Is that why he changed his schedule? What is going on? I can barely breathe as Lily continues to speak. I know you still love me, Marco. Lily continues. I know I'm still in your heart. That is why you married that Omega. She's supposed to replace me, right? Because she's born on the same day as I am does not mean she can replace me. No one can replace me in your heart, Marco. No one. I wheeze when I hear her. I just can't believe that Marco would stand there and let her say those words. It must be a prank. There is no other explanation. It has to be a setup. I take the risk to look through the frosted window in Lily's office. Frosted glasses are only clear from the inside out. From the outside in, I can only see silhouettes. My heart plummets when I see Lily and Marco's silhouette through the window. This is not a prank. This is real. Marco is really in Lily's office, and he's standing really close to her. I'm very sorry for breaking your heart and going after Eric, Lily continues in a soft, apologetic tone. I know you chose that girl to make me jealous and angry. I always recall our past memories and I want to be with you. I love you, Marco. I hold my breath as silence reigns in the office. My face is still glued to the window, looking at the silhouette of Marco and Lily. I feel a small flicker of hope that Marco would turn her down. That flicker of hope is like a lone candle, saving me from drowning in darkness and misery. I love you, Lily. That is certainly Marco's voice. I would recognize it anywhere, even when I'm asleep. I am certain I didn't hear wrongly. Marco just declared his love for Lily. That is not the worst part. The worst part is what comes next. Lily's silhouette leans forward to Marco's silhouette. They are kissing. I gasp, unable to believe my eyes. At that moment, that flicker of hope inside me goes off, and I plummet into a despair, wallowing darkness. I can't bring myself to watch anymore. Each second I spend by the window feels like a shard of glass is constantly digging into my heart. I can't bear it anymore. The moment Lily's silhouette intersected with Marco's, I turned my head away in pain. I don't have the courage to continue watching. How can I stand there watching my dearly beloved husband kiss another woman? I can't. I hastily turn away from Lily's office and run back the way I came. I've never felt this much pain in my entire life, and it feels like I am breaking apart with each step I take. The tears that pool in my face make my vision blurry as I run back to my office. I clasp my mouth tightly with my hands as I try to fight back the tears. Although I don't want to believe it, it doesn't change what happened. Lily and Marco kissed. I am struggling not to cry, but it is becoming increasingly difficult. I quickly scoop my bag from the table and dash out of the office. I do not want to draw attention to myself on the road, so I try to compose myself as I walk on the streets. The only question on my mind is why? Why? Will Marco do this? Has he not been very nice to me lately? Why did he hug me by the pond? If has no iota of affection for me, why did he celebrate his birthday with me when he never celebrated it before? I am just beginning to think that Marco is developing feelings for me. But that turns out to be just my imagination. Maybe I am too eager to believe that he loves me and misjudge his actions. Maybe he only wants to use me to make Lily angry and jealous. Or maybe he only cares about the baby growing inside of me, and that is why he's being nice to me. Whatever the reason is, thinking about it only makes me feel sadder. I can no longer hold back the feeling of sadness that swirls in my raging heart, and I just want to let it out. Sadness overwhelms me, and I collapse to the sign on the road. I shrink to a ball and begin to cry my out. A few minutes later of crying my heart out, I suddenly feel someone pointing a clean, new handkerchief with a beautiful embroidery towards me. I look up, and I'm absolutely surprised that Prince Eric is the one offering me a handkerchief. I wonder what Prince Eric is doing in this area. Did he come to visit Lily, or he is just taking a walk in the neighborhood? Take this, he says, in a gentle tone, completely different from his brother. My heart sinks deeper when the thought of Marco crosses my mind, and more tears spill from my eyes. I collect the handkerchief from Prince Eric, bowing my head slightly to say thank you. The handkerchief is soft, clean, and clearly expensive. Prince Eric just stands there, looking princely and charming in his dark suit and dark sunglasses. He looks every bit like a gentleman, and patiently waits for me to finish cleaning my face with his handkerchief before he asks for it back. Why are you crying? Prince Eric asks. I stutter. I don't know what to say. Although I am hurt and sad, I don't want to say anything that might hurt Marco's image. I keep stuttering. Just a bit of mild unpleasantness with Lily. I reply and force a smile. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal yet. You are crying your heart out over here. Prince Eric asks, chuckling in a cynical manner as though he sees right through my lies. It's Lily and Marco, isn't it? He smiles softly. His knowing expression dares me to deny the truth. How did he know that? I think to myself, his guess is so accurate that I can't hide the shock from my face. Don't look so shocked, Prince Eric says. It's not difficult to guess what's making you cry, he continues. I also faced the same thing when I started dating Lily. She has such a deep connection with Marco that I could never understand. Lily and I are never able to form that kind of connection. Prince Eric explains. I am surprised by his words, but shocked with the way he says it. He tells me that his fiancée is deeply in love with his brother, and he has an amusing smile on his face. He isn't sad or worried or scared. It's as though he doesn't love Lily or he doesn't care about her at all. I wonder why he's dating her in the first place if he doesn't love her. Just like his father, Eric does not seem to care about love. Only power. You don't seem sad that Lily and Marco are still seeing each other? I ask, surprised that he doesn't seem to care. Not really, he chuckles. I engaged Lily because I thought she is special. But recently, I realized I might have made a mistake. He takes off his sunglasses and gazes at me intently with his brown eyes. He steps closer to me and whispers, I think maybe you're the special one. He then moves his face closer to mine, and I subconsciously jerk back. See you later, Tanya. Prince Eric grins and walks away. I do not understand what he means by his words, but what I do understand is that I cannot come in the way of Lily and Marco's fated love. Even Prince Eric seems to have given up. It's time for me to face the truth. There's no way Marco can love me since he's already in love with Lily. The sooner I realize that, the better. Tend. You inspired me to pick out the perfect gift for my husband, I say to the moon mage behind the veil. He really loved it. Thank you very much. I could only inspire you because you're very smart and thoughtful. I smile at the compliment. After such a sad day that I've had, I can really use a compliment or two. Thank you for always listening to me, I continue. No matter how heavy my heart is or trivial my words are, you always listen. Thank you very much. Really, dear, I should be the one saying thank you for allowing me to peek into that beautiful mind of yours. It is always rare to see such kind-hearted and innocent persons like you. I wish to talk to you more and more, the moon mage replies, making me smile shyly. Talking to the moon goddess mage always makes me feel better. I've had a pretty sad day, but after a few minutes of talking to her, I feel happy already. She always seems to understand me, and she always seems to know what to say. Sometimes I even think if you were a boy, I would definitely fall in love with you. I chuckle and joke with her. You always know how to make me feel better. You really wish that. The moon mage asks, and I can clearly detect excitement in her voice, which only makes me laugh harder. Yes? If I were a boy, would you rather choose me or your husband? The moon mage asks. My first instinct is to say Marco. But the image of what happened earlier in Lily's office flashed through my mind. You, I reply to the moon mage, and she seems to go into another one of her trance. I hear a thump and laughter behind the veil. I am used to it by now that it no longer bothers me. The moon mage, still in a trance, is mumbling under her breath. I do not hear her very clearly, but I think she is saying something along the line of, "You are jealous." But it is useless for you to be angry. You are so cold and I am so cheerful. I am just more popular and likable than you. I no longer pay attention to her but mumble under my breath. I don't deserve Marco's love. I should not be loved by him. I have to go now. I speak aloud for the moon mage to hear. It's night already. Okay, my daughter. Be safe. The moon mage replies, and I walk out of the temple to go home. Werewolves have excellent night vision, so I'm not surprised when most of the streetlights are not working and nobody is saying anything about it. If I had my wolf, I probably will not notice that the streetlights are faulty. I try to navigate my way in the darkness, but I hit my leg on a large stone and lose my balance. I stagger and try to regain my balance, but it's too late. I know I am going to fall and I cannot do anything about it. Just as I'm about to hit the ground, I feel a pair of strong hands catch me. I hastily look at who it is and find that it is no other person than Marco. I whisper, despite the chivalrous nature of Marco's actions and the warmth that I felt from being caught in his arms, it didn't change how unsettled I felt. For the rest of the night, I barely spoke to him, retreating back to being the girl I once was. As quiet as a mouse, withdrawn and doubtful that I could trust anyone. Sure, Marco didn't have to love me. It was only a marriage contract after all. But at least up until yesterday, I was made to believe he began to care about me. I was just a little bit sad, although I haven't gotten over my sadness from yesterday. I try to hide my emotions and not bring them to work. I walk into work with a robotic disposition and set up at my workstation silently. I don't feel like talking, but despite this, one of my coworkers walks up to me. Tanya, Lily wants to see you. I politely nod, but a sense of dread erupts in my system. Not again. The only person I could do without seeing today. With a sigh, I start off towards her office. Each step heavier than the last as the memories of yesterday infringe on my thoughts. Morning, Lily says to me, with her usual demure and dignified smile. Oh, good, you're here. My mum asked me to hand you the sheet. I curiously look at the sheet and find it's the application form for the perfume contest that Vivian mentioned to me. Do you plan to attend this competition? Lily says softly. However, when I want to take the sheet from her, I find she's subconsciously clutching the application form. Her fingers are slightly pale from the force. I'm still considering whether to attend. I shift my gaze from Lily's fingers to her eyes. I know you have great talent, and my mom has always complimented your work. But if you ask my opinion, then I'd warn you that the competition is fierce, and you haven't been learning from my mother for very long. It might be smarter to attend the competition in the future, when you're better prepared. Lily is still smiling, but I don't know if it's my own constructed illusion. But I feel as if Lily is a little nervous, and she doesn't want me to attend the contest. I nod, taking the application form from her, and indicate that I will consider it carefully. Good. Other than that, Tanya, I have a difficult confession to make to you. Lily's tone of voice becomes pitiable. I realize what she's going to say, and rush to look down at the floor, unable to look into her eyes as she speaks. I am so sorry, Tanya. I really am. But I still love Marco. Can you forgive me? With great hesitance, I raise my head, watching as tears stream down Lily's face to my surprise. She takes a minute sniffling into a tissue before continuing. I saw Marco and apologized to him yesterday. I know he's your husband, and I shouldn't have seen him. But I really miss him. She nervously wrings her arm as she continues to speak. He's my fated mate, Lily continues. I really, really love him so much that I feel I will die if he's not by my side at every minute. She brushes a strand of tears from her eyes and continues to speak. When we talked, I told Marco that I wanted to be with him again. But he said no. Out of responsibility to you and your marriage, I wouldn't have put it past Marco to decline. Not because he loved me, but because Marco was a morally good man. He had chosen to keep his promise to me over his happiness with Lily. And even so, it isn't right for me to take that away from him, and by the minute I grow more ashamed for being upset with him for yesterday. I need your help, Tanya. You know that Marco and I belong together. Even if you love him, you know what's the right thing to do. Could you please help me convince him to change his mind? Do right by Marco. Relieve him of his burden so he can be with his true love. Please. Lily suddenly crosses the distance between us, leaving me unprepared as she clasps her hands on mine in a plea, now so close that I can see the wetness of her cheeks. Confronted with Lily's words, I find the situation absurd. My husband's ex-girlfriend is pleading with me to persuade my husband and help them be together again. Is there anything more dramatic than this? However, after all my constant struggle, I realize it would also be monstrous of me to not give Marco the choice. Marco deserves to have a choice. Our marriage is indeed an accident, one that entirely relies on Marco's good nature and faithfulness alone. Maybe it isn't meant to be. Finally, I decide in my heart, I should agree to Lily's request. I should give Marco the right to make a real choice for once. If Marco chooses Lily after their meeting, then I'd let them be happy and leave his life for good. But if Marco chooses me, even with my extremely unlucky life, if the universe for some unexplainable reason decides to give me this noble man, then I would never let him go. I'd cherish him and care for him till the end of my days. I'll help you, Lily. I'll talk to Marco. I mutter quietly, watching as her eyes grow wide and she smiles and thanks me. And although my heart aches uncontrollably, I think I made the right choice. After the conversation with Lily, I shuffle out of the room and back to my workstations to get on with my tasks. All the while, I'm acutely aware of the clock on the wall that slowly ticks down to the impending end of my marriage. Tanned. Tea. Following Lily's request, I leave work and head straight home to have a talk with Marco. I step through the door and there he is, waiting patiently at the kitchen table, brows lifting as I enter the room. "Good day," he asks. I nod and put down my things before I sit at the table. My fingers are clenched tightly, and I just come out with it. "I think you need to meet and have a talk with Lily. Now why on earth would I do that?" He frowns at me with confusion in his tone. I feel a burst of pain. and then I realize it's because I'm too nervous that my fingers have pinched hard into my palm. She really wants to meet with you and have a conversation about some things. What things, Tanya? No. This is absurd. Why would I meet with my ex? There's no reason to. Because she's your fated mate while I'm only. I can't say anymore. What the hell am I doing? I'm helping my love rival to persuade my husband. I must be crazy. The grievance hits me without warning, and I can no longer restrain my sorrow. Tears just fall from my eyes. Tanya, is there anything wrong? Marco stretches his hand to wipe away my tears, but I cower a little and avoid his stroke. I feel sorry as I notice Marco's hand frozen in the air. Just please, could you please meet Lily? There's a moment of silence as Marco's piercing blue eyes stare at me. Then he stands up with an obscure expression and says in a deep voice, alight, I'll meet her, only because you asked. You really want this? Yes. Nodding. I avoid his gaze, feeling ashamed for treating him this way. But as promised, Marco leaves the kitchen, saying he won't be long and heads out of the house, leaving me alone with my thoughts. Even though I have been mentally preparing all day for this, it still doesn't make it any easier for my heart to bear. Not long after, I also leave home and decide to go out for a walk, thinking that might help distract me from the anxious thoughts. I walk on the road when suddenly a hand appears from behind, and a rag smothers my mouth without warning. Fear and shock cascade through me as I twist and buckle, trying to free myself, but strong arms lock me in place. Slowly I feel myself slipping out of consciousness, and even with one final effort, the darkness consumes me. The chilly temperature is what wakes me, and I peel back my eyelids to the cold and impersonal small room that I'm in. The soreness of my body suggests I've been on the ground for a while, and I try to move my hands, but they're uncomfortably restricted as tight rope bounds my ankles and wrists. The slow rhythmic pulse of my heart now escalates in a race. I begin to panic, and I no longer can find the air in my lungs to breathe. I have been detained in this cold room, my heart racing as I try to understand this forced isolation. However, before my body goes into hyperventilation, I spot another body to my right. Kathy, and realizing it's my husband's sister calms me enough to crawl over to her. Kathy, wake up. I shake her with my tethered hands till I detect movement from her and can see that she's beginning to stir. Her eyes blink frantically before she is conscious enough to speak. Oh God, where are we? Kathy, do you remember seeing who captured you? She shakes her head. No, all I remember was being hit with something from behind, and then I passed out. Nothing else can be said, however, as we both jolt with terrible alarm. The door heartlessly slams open with a bam, shuddering against the wall it's bashed against, and in walk two sizable males. Instantly they are both recognizable to me. It's the alpha that I have witnessed being tossed out of the palace. With him is another male, the one that has been arguing with him the day Marco and I prayed under the blue moon tree. And while before, there was a comical nature to Alpha's yelling and anger, now the circumstances leave me vulnerable and incredibly fearful as he glares fiercely at me and Kathy. Good, you're both awake. You're here because the royal family gave me no choice. I'm Caspian, alpha of a pack. And this is Dylan, my beta, while the alpha can pass as a human to an untrained eye. To me, he looks truly wild. Eyes feral, brows and hair untamed, a beautiful form of savagery that lies untouched by the expectation of civilization. And the alpha's next declamation reveals why. My pack lived in peace and serenity for generations. We pride ourselves on being surrounded by nature and our connection to it. And like any wild animal, he does not filter articulating his feelings with composure. He talks with loud hand gestures and expressive movements in his facial bones. But the royal family wants to modernize my pack by building a ridiculous dam. Apparently, the economic output of my pack is backward. His resentment clearly runs deep. I sense that his dominance and alpha nature is nothing but pure, unable to submit to the royal family's authority. What those pompous wolves don't understand is that my pack is more eager to live in nature. The industrialization and modernization will completely destroy the beauty we're surrounded in. And the building of the dam will have unforeseeable consequences for the environment, which will affect the lives of the inhabitants very much. Even in his upset, the alpha sounds very intelligent and in tune with his pack and what they need. I've raised several objections with the royal family, but they were all dismissed, so I've had to resort to a more barbaric strategy. I heard that the prince recently had a girl, so when he realizes I've detained his love and his sister, he'll have to change his mind to free you. Now all you must do is call him, convince him to change his mind, and then I'll release you both. I cower on the ground as the alpha moves towards me, forcefully shoving the cell phone in my face. Now call him. Induced fear compels me to senselessly reach for the phone, but I slowly grow conscious as my fingers seize up, unable to press the number keys. I haven't suddenly lost my motor silences. Something far worse. I have only known Marco for such a short period of time. The quickness of our marriage, moving in together, I have never bothered to ask for his number. With this realization, I fumble with my words under the alpha's menacing expression. I don't know his number, I say timidly. My words obviously exceed the man's expectations as he reveals a childlike daze for a moment, even diminishing his ferocity. But the next instant, he stares into my eyes, clearly unconvinced. How can you not know his number? You're lying. Aren't you? Are you that foolish to come up with such a lie? Do you really believe you'll escape without the prince's help? But it's true, I say weakly. I'm not lying, I really am telling you the truth. My lips quiver as they advocate for my honesty, and I'm on the verge of tears as the alpha grows impatient. I don't have time for this nonsense. It's good you brought the sister Dylan. This one is useless. He snatches the phone from me and whirls round to Kathy. You call him. Kathy also hesitates to reach for the phone, but he doesn't let up, thrusting the cell into her tied-up hands. Suddenly, a terrible amount of pain erupts in my belly. It feels almost as if something sharp is carving its way beneath my soul bond and piercing certain areas of my stomach. The throbbing is immense, and I cry out as I curl up on the floor. Please help, it hurts. This gets the attention of both men, who turn to me. I'm carrying the future, please. I need care and tranquility. I close my eyes tightly as if shutting them will keep out the affliction, and clench my clothing to the point that the ends of the fabric are now crumpled and distressed. It's enough that the man at the alpha's side quickly kneels next to me, placing a hand on my stomach, probably listening out for my unborn baby's heartbeat. She's telling the truth. She's carrying the future. I watch over the man's shoulder and see a flicker of panic across Caspian's fierce expression. But he continues to bluff, despite a stutter. Even if she's carrying the future. Are you sure she's not just messing with us, Dylan? I feel a deep sense of fragility within me, worrying for the precious future I carry. Dylan glances back at the alpha, and they exchange something between them that slowly thaws away the aggression in Caspian, and his expression slowly shifts into severe apprehension. Oh God, we could have hurt the baby. He paces back and forth in a panic-stricken state, hands pulling at the ends of his hair in hysterics. Dylan, we must go now and grab the doctor. We must help her and the baby. He then looks at me. Just hold on, we'll be as quick as we can. Come on, Dylan. The two men rush out of the room, and I am once again left alone with Kathy. You're carrying the future. There is justifiable disbelief in her tone, but nevertheless she comes up beside me. But before she can, I sit up, no longer buckling over from pain as I carefully eye the door to ensure the two men are gone. What were you acting just then? Kathy asks, further perplexed by my actions. I really am carrying the future, Kathy, and I was having real stomach cramps at first. But then it stopped, and so I just acted like I was still in pain. I wink gently. But that's not important now. We need to use this opportunity to escape. Kathy nods her head in agreement, and I watch her fingernails extend into sharp, wolfish-sharp presence that she uses to cut the rope that restricts me, and I help her undo the rest. We then start searching for a way to escape. First, we try the door. Keyhole on our end has been sealed, so we can't pick the lock. Then we try to undo the hinges, but they have been bolted by heavy-duty metal that neither of our fingers can pry. And finally, we begin kicking it in utter desperation. But the metallic, vault-like door is impenetrable, and obviously is sealed tightly shut. But we carry on searching for other methods of escape. No windows limits our options, but that doesn't stop me and Kathy from pressing our hands against the bricks and the four walls that imprison us. We're hoping there'd be a loose brick somewhere that we can maybe nudge out of formation to reveal the outside world. But the construction has been solid and well done and makes our efforts futile. Together we sit on the ground now in exhaustion, and I gaze up at the ceiling to try and stop my tears from obeying gravity. My brows scrunch in concentration as I notice a ceiling panel that looks out of place, making me quickly stand up to try and get a closer look. Kathy. There. That might help us get outside. She looks up too, realizing what I'm talking about. Let's use the tables and chairs to get higher up, she says. I nod, helping her stack the furniture before climbing up, with very little distance left to reach the skylight. I let Kathy climb up on my shoulders, so she's able to reach it and pull herself through. A tense pause hangs in the air before she mutters disheartened. It's actually just the third floor. This makes my heart sink. Just as Kathy's about to pull me up, the door to the room suddenly opens, revealing Caspian and Dylan's sullen faces. Quick, take my hand, Tanya. Kathy's urgent plea pulls my gaze away from the two fearsome men in the doorway, and despite the request for haste and her outstretched hand, I don't take it. Something within me snaps into place as I suddenly realize the reality of our situation and what I must do to ensure that our captors don't win. Go without me. What? No. There is no time to hear out her protests, so I quickly interject. Kathy, the only way to escape from the third floor would be to jump. I have no wolf form. I'd be Razul Banj my life trying to jump. Even with the absence of any discernible bump, my hand instinctually places itself where it knows my baby is kept. Another life I'm now sworn to protect, and I smile tenderly at the thought. I won't risk my baby's life. Of course, Kathy expectantly fumbles to find a resolution to this valid argument. But she tries, nevertheless. I can carry you. Yes, I can carry you down. In me, a fondness grows for Kathy. Even in the face of her disapproval of me marrying her brother, her reluctance to desert me is touching. That she still is a decent person willing to help another in the face of danger. But even so, my decision has already been made. Number, if you go on your own, you'll still have a chance of escaping if they chase after you. But if you take me with you, I can't shift into a wolf. You'll have to carry me, and I'll slow you down. We'll just end up getting caught again. But, no, Kathy, you need to go. I take her hand, but only to give her trembling fingers a gentle squeeze of hope, depicting my trust in her through a trying smile, and only bearing my fearful soul into her eyes. My unborn baby's life is in your hands now. Go find my husband. Tell him where I am. Come back for me. I watch as my words cast her into silence, and then I witness something I haven't seen before. Something changes in the way Kathy looks at me. She wears a complicated expression that I can't understand. She seems on the verge of tears. I've never seen such an expression on her face. In the past, she always had a malignant grin that relished in my failure, mocking my low status, or labeling me a gold digger. She's like touched by me. But there's not much time left for us. I let my fingers slip from her grasp without warning, finally surrendering to the powerful entities below and mentally submitting to the jaws that seize my mind and body. I let the alpha and his beta wrench me down from our handmade ladder to freedom. And the last thing I see of Kathy is the long golden wisps of her hair, before I turn to face the wrath of my werewolf captor. Hi. Wes. Lily's point of view. I vigorously and rhythmically dabbed the foundation, soaked makeup sponge against the soul bond on my neck, concentrating hard on covering up the ugly faint red line that sits on the curve of my neck. An evident strangulation mark that has me recalling the events of the last couple of hours. I had been rushing home from work in a hurry, wanting to have as much time as possible to look dashing for Marco for our meeting. The elation was sparkling and fizzing within me, like a shaken bottle of gorgeous pink champagne, just waiting to explode in celebration of me and Marco's reunion. The image of him ran rampantly through my mind, even as I walked with noble grace through the streets of my future kingdom. I also wanted to be home early because I wanted to take my time getting ready. I deserved some proper pampering for all my hard work. Convincing pathetic Tanya to do as I pleased was an exhausting affair, and so I was looking forward to having a long, relaxing soak in the bathtub. But I had only made it halfway home when massive hands grabbed me, pulling me into a dark and deserted alleyway. Another man came into view trying to help capture me as I fought them, resisting as much as I could. I did hear their mumbling, however. God, I didn't realize Prince Eric's girl was so hot-headed. Are you sure? She's Lily? I instantly sensed the doubt in their tone. They might want to detain me as some form of retaliation towards Eric, but they weren't entirely sure of my appearance. I struggled hard, finally earning myself a chance to speak. Are you talking about the first prince's fiancée Lily? I made myself sound scared and confused. You've got the wrong girl. I'm not Lily. I saw their skeptical gazes and continued. Do you think the prince's fiancé would be walking alone unattended like this? Let me go. I won't tell anyone I've seen you, and I know where the real Lily is. The two brawny men stayed silent but nodded. I knew my chance came, pointing to where Tanya was. She's just down the road, the third house. She's got black hair, green eyes, and a petite body. You'll know when you see her. She has the ring on. I remember watching them leave, hoping they could really make Tanya disappear from this world, leaving Marco all to me. Now I stand in front of the mirror. I pull out dazzling white pearls from one of my drawers and clip them so they settle perfectly against my neck. My hair is pulled up into a pretty bun and allows me to showcase my favorite pair of earrings that match my formal attire. With a smile, I grab my clutch and make my way down into one of the palace's sitting rooms where Marco is waiting for me. Hi, Marco. I purr. What is this about Lily? I dislike the abruptness to his tone, but I try to brush past it. Please, have a seat, Marco. Do want some tea, Lily. I don't have the time for this. Let's get straight to the point. Why did you want to talk to me? Before I can say anything else, Kathy bursts into the room, panting heavily from exhaustion. For the time being, I'm more confused rather than irritated. Kathy, is everything okay? I ask. Marco rushes towards her as she tries to catch her breath. Tanya's been detained. Marco, I need you. We need to go back and save her. What? How? Kathy interjects. It doesn't matter. We need to go now. Before they hurt her. My frustration grows by the minute. Why is he so concerned about Tanya? Why does he care so much? It is irritating to no end that a meeting that was meant to be about me and our love is now about Tanya again. She ruins everything. Despite the aggravation going on in my head, I maintain my composure. Before Marco can leave, I grab his hand, softening my eyes, my expression showcasing a sad lost look, trying to induce some form of pity from my fated mate. Marco, please don't go. It's not often we get this sort of time together, and it's really important that I speak to you about certain matters. But to my surprise, he snags his arm away from my grasp as the line of his brow creases in a form of revulsion. Lily, I only came to meet with you because Tanya insisted that I did, and whatever you have to say, I don't want to hear it. His tone is cold and unforgiving. I came here to make it clear that our relationship was over. I don't love you anymore, Lily. I maintain a neutral face, but my fingers twitch under his stern gaze. I am married, so there will be no more unnecessary interaction between you and me from now on. Kathy, let's go. I'm in absolute shock and completely silent as Marco turns to leave, unable to even react upon seeing Kathy's gloating grimace in response to my demise. How could he not love me anymore? I couldn't be seen so frazzled like this. I quickly head out of the palace and back to my office to try and calm myself. However, even there I can't escape noisy nobodies. I uncomfortably bump into the cleaning lady as she dusts my room. Oh, hello, dear. I have been meaning to ask, I noticed the large doll in the room. Do you want me to place that somewhere? Number. I raise a fake smile at her. Could you come back later to the cleaning? I'd like to be alone for a little while. The cleaner nods and shuffles at the door. Finally by myself, I stare at the massive plus and suddenly throw it across the room to release my pent-up rage. I watch as it slams onto the floor, and it's enough force to push down the button on the doll's built-in voice box, emitting Marco's voice loud and clear. It's the same voice Tanya heard outside my office that day. I love you, Lily. I knew you were lying. His voice is immensely hostile. I even hear a growl pierce through his words as he and the beta drag me away by my arms, unbothered as my lower torso and legs scrape limply across the cold, hard ground. In minutes, my back makes hard contact against one of the walls, and I look up at the looming brutes who corner me. You're all the same. The alpha snarls. You're all just a bunch of conniving rich snakes who don't care about anyone but themselves. I sit motionless in paralytic fear and despair as they grab my arms, and I flinch as frigid metal prisoning bracelets snap onto each wrist, nearly pinching my soul bond. The clang of wriggly chains encourages me to finally look and see the cuffs that are fastened to my hands, which are then connected by shackles. Built into the wall, my back is pressed against. I pathetically don't bother to even test their strength, knowing I'm too fragile to make any difference. They're so heavy that they weigh down my arms, and even the cuffs have to be secured as tight as they can be, so they don't slip off my dainty wrists. But I've accepted my fate. I'm stuck here now, with nothing and no one to protect me. But I still want to defend Marco, and I always feel suspicious of the reason for this detaining. Look, I promise you. I lean towards the alpha as he tests the sturdiness of my chains, not realizing I'd never be able to escape them. My husband isn't the type of person to just give out orders so heartlessly. He'd listen to opinions of others. He wouldn't be so cruel. The man doesn't even spare me a glance. I don't believe a word you say. I wince as he tugs at the chains one final time, either for good measure or to see me react to the pain from yanking my sore joints. Just be truthful about this, princess. Do yourself a favor. I'll release you as soon you're honest with me and give me what I want. All I want is his number. My heartbeat once again escalates, my chest rising and falling as I envision his reaction to my response. But I don't have it. Liar! I jolt as his large masculine fist slams the wall inches from my face, triggering a river of tears to run down my cheeks as I choke on the terror in my heart. Please believe me. Stop! He bashes his fist repeatedly against the cemented white wall. Stop! 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 Stop lying! I don't need to look to know he's dented the bricks, creating a fist-sized crevice from his alpha strength. The sound echoes harshly through my ear canals and makes my head start to throb, forcing me to wail out in a plea for him to stop. I hear the hitch in his breath as his frustration scarily surges. Without warning, sharp presence flash cross my field of view, and before I can react, my body and mind can't cope, and the world starts to spin. Heat rushes to my head and it makes it feel incredibly heavy. My gut churns uncomfortably as I lose any form of coherent thought. I'm so close to passing out when suddenly the door is barged open with incredible force. The dizziness means that the outer rim of my vision is blurry as I lay disoriented. But the center of my sight remains in focus, almost clearer by the bright lights of my prison room that shine white on Marco's extraordinary figure. Sweat covers every inch of him. Damp blonde hair falls to his nape in a gorgeous, untouched mess. But what's most prevalent to me, and probably to Caspian too, is the fury that cascades from Marco's dominating aura in vicious waves. Don't you dare touch her. I can't understand how I'm more afraid than the addressed alpha. Maybe because he has his sharp presence round my neck. But being so close to see his cold, unbothered stare makes me shiver. He doesn't even care to move or follow the command. Only staring blankly at Marco. I don't think you're in a position to be making demands. The sly remark baits my husband forward, but as he moves, the grip on my neck tightens and the sharp presence prick at my flesh further. I wince in response, lifting my head and neck uncomfortably to try and veer away. My stiff and nervous movements halt Marco's advances. Caspian clicks his tongue in supremacy. Now you see, you are in no position to be making demands. She doesn't matter to me. I can end her life in this very moment. I choose my next actions wisely. Marco has always been gifted in Mazulbanj, his true thoughts, unless he chose to show or tell me how he felt. I could never really discern through the barrier that hid his emotions. But in this very moment, I finally see a glimpse of his inner world, only for a single second, his eyes highlighting his uncertainty and hesitation. For there is no way to get to me without Mazulbanj my life. Then hurt me instead. My eyes widen upon hearing Marco's words. It's me you want, isn't it? Not her. Caspian clearly debates this offer for a minute, his eyes flickering between me and my husband. It's like he's almost teasing Marco, making him wait as he weighs up the offer as if it's a difficult decision. Finally, he jerks his head in a signal to Dylan, tie him up. The alpha doesn't remove his hold, but only watches with me as his beta grabs one of the metal chairs, dragging it bitterly against the flooring so it screeches in protest. When it's positioned in front of the wall opposite me, Marco silently sits in it, swift in his movements, freely holding his arms behind the chair backrest so his hands can be chained in place. Throughout the whole process, his sapphire eyes stare directly into mine, as if trying to relay a message of comfort that I couldn't hear. I hate how willingly Marco is behaving. He remains the confident male that I know him to be in his actions. But there's a twang of pain I feel watching his surrender. That's evidently because of me. When Caspian is satisfied with this, he releases his hold, and I feel like I can finally breathe. But the relief is short-lived. Caspian steps over to Marco, and without warning, pumps his fist into Marco's jaw. No. I scream, scrabbling to pull the chains even though it's useless. Shut up, girl. Caspian does it again, and I watch in horror as Marco's skull snaps sideways in reaction to the force. A reddish hue gradually growing on the place of impact. Again, and again, and again, Caspian bashes his fist into my husband, all parts of him at the mercy of this alpha. A blow to his nose leads to visible essence dripping lines down to his chin, and the one to his forehead slices a notch into his brow. My breathing is uncontrollable now, with an irregular heart-wrenching pulse of my chest. I can do nothing, absolutely nothing as Marco lifts his gaze towards me, eyes once again seeping with a message that I have no wolfish ability to discern. I can't help but cry loudly now, no longer fearful of being heard. My sobbing is erratic as I'm drowning in desperation. I feel totally inept and helpless. I'm not sure if it is because of Marco's selfless act to take such a beating, or my gut-wrenching cries, but Caspian's beta intercepts another harmful hit. Caspian, calm down. Caspian, please, that's enough. You've made your point. The alpha's gaze snaps to his inferior, a sense-thirsty look in his wild eyes. Why should I stop? Not only will this dam affect the lives of my pack, but most importantly, the blue moon tree will be cut down because of it. How can I be calm when they want to so mercilessly destroy such a sacred tree? In that singular moment, something dawns on me. I struggle to regain conscious thought and formulate words to cut through the alpha's rage. Wait, there's something wrong! A silence blesses the air as all three males pause at my outburst, giving me seconds to make my point. The blue moon tree is very important to Marco. He'd never ever make such a proposal. I almost scream in my haste. Again, a sudden hush befalls upon the room, and I'm left uncomfortably restless from it, internally praying that Caspian listens, almost ready to further defend my husband's case. But before I can say anything else, the alpha finally speaks. Hold on, you're Marco. He looks at my husband with extensive curiosity. You're not Eric. No, he's Prince Marco, Eric's brother. I say immediately, looking almost as confused as the alpha. Marco coughs out some of the essence in his throat before adding, I never drafted a proposal to construct a dam in the Blue Moon Pack territory. I probably wasn't told about it because the royals knew I'd completely forbid the destruction of the Blue Moon tree. Restless minutes pass, slowly revealing a very different persona from the fierceness Caspian portrayed earlier. The pressure on his brow bone relaxes first, before raising high to his hairline in sincere surprise. His mouth gapes open, and if I'm not so terrified for me and Marco's life, I would have laughed at Caspian's expression. He awkwardly presses his hand against the nape of his neck where I can see sweat beginning to dampen the collar of his shirt. He looks immeasurably uncomfortable with the situation. Oh well, this is embarrassing. He laughs nervously, pacing the room as he taps his chin, swiveling on the ball of his shoe with each turn. Mind undoing our restraints. Marco sounds so blasted about it that it takes me a minute to register the fact that we are still in cuffs. His tone also takes Caspian a moment before he processes the request, and his body jolts in startling realization. Oh goodness. Yes, of course, Dylan. What are you waiting around for? Untie them. Dylan runs over to me, carefully undoing my chains. His treatment of me a stark difference from a couple of minutes ago. Caspian is undoing Marco's ropes haphazardly, only for my husband to tug his wrist apart with an incredible amount of force, shredding the ties in a clear show that he has only sat there and taken the beating because he wanted to protect me and the baby. He could have easily escaped and attacked. Caspian chuckles awkwardly at this realization, whilst Marco only glares. This is just a big misunderstanding, you see, says the alpha with a playful smile. I'm sorry for the torture tactics. But you're a Lycan, which thank God for that, 'cause that will heal up in no time. He strokes Marco's shoulder in some form of apology. But my husband slaps his hand away with a formidable look. Caspian sighs. I really am sorry. The royal family bullied my pack into giving up control, and I'm not going to just let them destroy our territory for their own gain, especially when the Blue Moon tree is so important to us. Just then, an idea flashes through my mind. Now without chains holding me back, I rush to my feet and up to Caspian. Maybe you don't have to fight them after all, I suddenly say, grabbing Caspian's attention curiously. I have a way to save the Blue Moon tree. Tanka. That evening, Marco and I return home together. We are sitting quietly in the living room as I work on his wounds. With a warm, damp sponge to wipe away the essence coming from the cuts on his face in a gentle motion, trying hard not to hurt him, studying his wounds, noticing the bruising, and feeling guilty for the pain he undertook to protect me. I can feel Marco's eyes on me, watching me quietly as I dab away any essence. I then take out a bottle of ointment, dipping my clean fingers in it before pressing a generous amount on his wounds. As I do this, I remember that Marco must have come to rescue me halfway through his meeting with Lily. I'm really sorry I made you leave your meeting with Lily so you could come and save me, I whisper. I stammer a little to get my next words out, highly hesitant with the thoughts that cross my mind, but finally can't resist a soul bonge. How did the meeting go? I feel sick to my stomach from the nervousness while I wait to hear his answer. Weren't you the one who really wanted me to go? An upward arc on his lips slightly formulates on his beaten-up face. How come you're so nervous about the outcome? That's because my cheeks flush red, not knowing how to say. Marco looks at me stammering anxiously, the smile in his eyes becoming more and more obvious. He is teasing me again. This makes me hot-headed for a second, and I can't help blurting out the truth which I intended to keep secret. I asked you to meet with her because Lily begged me to convince you to. I watched the confusion showcase itself in his expression. Tanya, you sound like some major philanthropist, he chuckles. Do you even hear yourself? My ex-girlfriend asks you to help her get on speaking terms with your husband, and you agree? It's because... I look at Marco acting as if nothing has happened. Instead, it's me who keeps tangling, and a surge of grief springs up in my heart. Once I recall what I've seen outside Lily's office, it's as if I can taste the bitterness on my tongue again. I state with clear hurt in my eyes. It's because I saw you in Lily's office the other day, kissing her and saying, I love you. I thought maybe she's the one you really want, so I thought I should let you guys reconcile. Marco frowns, prominent brows furrowing, and without warning, his warm hands are pressing against my cheeks and holding my face so that I have to look at him as he speaks. But I never went into Lily's office. My brows narrow in thought. But when you said, I love you to her, it sounded exactly like you. I watch him think intensely for a moment before a light bulb goes off in his head. I gave Lily a doll, and when you push a button, it emits a recording of my voice saying, I love you, Lily. That's what you must have heard. Also, when I met with Lily today, I just told her that we will no longer be meeting alone in the future, if it isn't necessary. I shouldn't be meeting alone with my ex, especially when I'm married to you. Upon hearing this, the tension in my body dissipates as I release a calm sigh. I smile as his explanation soothes away my worries. So, you're not angry anymore. I can sense the teasing nature of his question as he smiles at me, adding, if I'm correct, I was sensing a tad bit of jealousy from you, Tanya. He says cockily, sounding pleased that his cheeky assumption was correct. I wrinkle my nose, shaking my head in blatant denial. Despite the tiny giggles I couldn't hold back, Marco's point of view. Today is the first round of the perfume competition. I really believe Tanya came up with a brilliant way to save the Blue Moon tree. Whoever wins the competition gets to sell and market their product extensively. And if Tanya uses the Blue Moon flower, which is only available in the Blue Moon Pack's territory, it means the pack will have immense economic growth for being the only supplier of the Blue Moon flower ingredients. So naturally, there would be no reason for the royal family to force the construction of the dam or destroy the Blue Moon tree. Both Tanya and Lily are competing, and I watch the different rooms as I recall the aspects of the competition. In the first round, each contestant will be in a separate room, and they must create a perfume within the time limit using the utensils and raw materials made available to them in the room. My eyes drift to TV screens in the main competition venue, showing video footage so that the audience and the judges can watch the contestants' every move. I'm specifically watching Tanya's screen, always impressed by her perfume-making abilities. I admire her talent. A bit of pride warms my chest knowing how capable she is. However, I start to notice that she's working at a much slower pace than all the other contestants. She almost looks oblivious to the time restriction, working on her concoction step by step without any sense of urgency. She's graceful in the way she works and maneuvers the utensils and instruments in a manner to create her concoction. But she's working too slowly, and there isn't a lot of time. I start to grow tense for her own sake, unable to do anything but watch as she doesn't pick up speed. I notice that there are 15 minutes left on the lock, with the first round about to come to an end. A bell rings uniformly in the corner of the competition venue, signaling to the contestants that there are only 15 minutes left before they must stop working on their perfumes. This is when I see Tanya's head snap up in realization, as if she hasn't known all along how little time she has left. And I watch as panic flashes in her eyes. The pipette between my fingers quivers uncontrollably as my arm freezes in the midst of adding oil drops. My thoughts draw back to before the start of the first round. I remember that one of the staff members came up to me, saying that I had 2 hours to complete my perfume. Hence, I chose to craft a fragrance that required more time to blend and combine, and that fit nicely within the 2-hour mark. Of course, I now realize that either she was mistaken or the person had deliberately lied, for in fact I only had 1 hour. Some inner sense within me considers it was the latter assumption, which was highly strange, for I hadn't even known the staff member, so why would she deliberately sabotage my chances? None of that matters. Now, however, the bell sounds like a massive gong in my mind as I realize I only have 15 minutes left to finish my perfume fragrance, and I can't proceed with the original one because I certainly won't be able to finish it in time. My thoughts begin to spiral with considerable doubt. My weeks upon weeks of preparation, the hours spent crafting and identifying best methods and specific fragrances in my laboratory, all gone to waste as I'm left cheated. A sense of disaster overwhelms me at the thought of losing in the first round when I have put my entire heart and soul into this competition. It's with this in mind that I suddenly re-establish the reason I'm here. Not for the fame or the glory, but to save the Blue Moon Tree. It's so important to me and Marco, a place that somehow connects us and forever remains a prominent reminder of my future child. But most of all, it's the essence of the Blue Moon Pack. And I know I have an obligation to them to save it. Recalling my purpose suddenly simmers the panic in my system. I don't have time to spare on the notion of fear and embarrassment. I have a responsibility, and with this in mind, my brain starts whizzing of new ideas and alternatives. I skim over my notes and establish quickly what I have to work with and where I can go from there. My half-completed perfume can still be of use, and I alter it into a different perfume that takes less time to set. I take note of the fragrances I've already used, which sparks a new concept. I begin to add other oils, deciding that I want to create something summery with hints of childish nostalgia. Like afternoons on vast farmlands with fields of apple trees. I use floral and oriental notes in combination with sandalwood to embody my idea. With 10 mins to spare, I add the ethanol and swirl my flask of restored fragrance before placing it over the Bunsen burner, whilst praying that all my calculations are correct. I'm nearly ecstatic as the concoction boils at the right moment. I've got less than 5 minutes, and while my heart patters erratically, I keep my hands steady. I take the flask off the flame and give it a final swirl and sniff. I smile, highly pleased with the final product. I pour the smooth liquid into a perfume bottle, add the topper, and set it down on my table, just as the bell chimes for a final time. I sigh in relief as I pass the first round of the competition. And after speaking with Marco and some of the judges, I elaborate the interaction with the staff member who faulted me. Because of this, she's punished and dismissed, although I'm still slightly uneasy about the whole ordeal. Not having ever met her before, it seems strange for her to target only me. The following days pass in a blur as I complete and positively progress through the rounds. In no time, I've successfully entered the final round. There are only 2 finalists, Lily and me. There are no restrictions on the ingredients or utensils permitted in this final round. And we are required to create a perfume related to the theme of love, with a 3-day allowance. We have 2 days to prepare. And then we must show the entire production process, step by step, in front of the judges and the audience, within a daily time limit. And at first, everything goes splendidly. I have no trouble coming up with a perfume concept surrounding the blue moon flower, since the blue moon tree is also known as the lover's tree. and associated with ancient folklore surrounding love and courtship. Therefore, the blue moon flower is the ideal main ingredient to base my perfume on, and it feels only right to have my notes, formulas, and calculations written down in the black journal Marco gifted me for Valentine's Day. It's almost as if a piece of him is with me in the room as I work tirelessly. I'm very conscious of my time restraints and maintaining a good pace, but I still take my time ensuring the perfection of each additional oil that I add to the mixture, annotating each step as I go to have a well-written notation of every decision I've made. It's the final day of the competition, and although Marco and Caspian have incredible faith in me and believe that I can win, I recognize that Lily is a very famous perfume designer who has won many perfume competitions while I am a nobody with nothing to my name. There's a betting system set up for our competition, and I'm not surprised when nearly everyone is betting on Lily. It does make sense. Her reputation far precedes mine, and I understand that no one would want to risk their money on someone like me who comes from a low-status life. And no one knows of my true capabilities in perfumery other than Lady Vivian and Marco. However, I notice Marco's reaction to everyone betting on Lily, portraying nothing but an eyebrow raise as he watches them choose Lily over me. But to my surprise, in front of everyone, he suddenly walks over to the booth and openly bets on me to win. I therefore can't help but let a shy smile slip onto my lips from seeing this. Just then, the final round is about to start. In this round, we are allowed to bring our own utensils for our creations, and I excitedly unveil the leather toolkit cover that protects them. But when I reveal my perfumery instruments, my expression falls into utter despair. My separatory funnel is shattered. It's what I use to separate the solutions in my mixture. This particular one is immeasurably precious to me, made out of a special type of glass that makes it truly one of a kind. Worse of all, there is no equivalent instrument on site that I could use instead. The absence of a separating funnel could ultimately destroy my entire creation. Droplets of water edge dangerously to the edge of my optics as I come to terms with accepting failure, and I can't help but notice the corners of Lily's mouth slightly curling up as she quietly stands at her station. Almost as if he could sense my distress, Marco rushes over to one of the judges and asks, "What's the latest time to submit perfumery equipment for the competition?" The judges need at least 5 minutes to check if the utensil is up to standard. The final round starts in 15, so there are only 10 minutes left for the submission of any utensils, he says. I see the unsure faces of people in the audience, shaking their heads and muttering amongst each other that there just isn't enough time. The item is so rare, it would be impossible to find it anywhere in the capital. I seem to internally agree with the audience. I slump my shoulders in defeat, believing I am going to lose without even putting up a fight. Just then, Marco comes up to me, his walk depicting purposeful intent. "I will bring that tool for you in time for the competition." "But how?" "Trust me, remember your Valentine's Day gift." He then dashes off. I watch as he shifts into his wolf form and gallops away. My eyes widen as I finally understand what he meant. Although the now fractured separatory funnel is indeed precious, one such replica does exist. Marco's gift to me included a wide range of rare and specialized equipment for perfumery, and one such tool is a separating funnel that is of the exact same make as the one broken in front of me. But none of that would matter if Marco doesn't get back in time. I nibble on my fingernails in an anxious display, feeling utterly restless as I wait for him to return. I do indeed trust him, with all my heart, but the logical segments of my brain argue that it's impossible. I watch in apprehension as time ticks away. The final round is about to start in 5 minutes, which means my last chance is about to disappear in 10, 9, 8, 7, 1. I watch the clock on the wall with massive strain on my heart, the seconds ticking down at a pace that can't be considered slow or fast, only agonizing, like it's mocking my slow inch towards demise. When it lands on one, dread succumbs to my system, and I face up to the fact that it's the end of my time in the competition. But before I'm left to accept failure, Marco bursts through the door with cosmic conviction. His perfectly placed golden blonde locks swaying with the movement of his body as he jogs over to my station. The moment equates to a scene in a book. Marco, as a knight in shining armor, returns from his quest with the only ancient artifact that could save his kingdom. I stare wordlessly into his eyes as I take hold of the utensil that he hands me, completely in awe of his desire to see me achieve this dream of mine. Hopefully my expression of pure admiration is enough, as I don't have time to thank him. I must focus now on making my perfume and saving the blue moon tree. The bell rings to signal the start of the final round, and we begin making our individual perfumes according to our specialized designs. I may have been weak in every other aspect of my wolfish existence, but perfumery is the one certainty that I never doubted myself on. I know what I'm capable of. That, and I also am in love with and immensely passionate about the craft. As I work, I find myself falling into a certain rhythm of motion as I drip drops of essence oils from pipettes, swirl liquids, distill and funnel certain mixtures. It's almost like a waltz, only the music is in my head, and I am dancing with my finest ingredients and tools to produce my best work. My focus remains on my own station. But every now and then I notice Lily's movements at the corner of my eye, for she is still just as talented, and I recognize the precision and fluidity in her movements. She showcases perfection, like she's practiced and practiced for days to make her actions look utterly flawless. Returning my gaze back to my work, I scan over my notes and calculations one final time to ensure I haven't missed anything. Confident, I'm ready to add the last ingredient. Using a sharp needle, I prick the end of my finger, placing it over my concoction and allowing a few drops of essence to plunge into the solution. I give the flask one final swirl before carefully transferring it to a perfume bottle, just as the bell signals the end of the final round. My heart pounds both excitedly and nervously in my chest as the judges come to critique my perfume first. My perfume is encased in a delicate clear glass bottle. The liquid shines through as a shade of sapphire blue, glowing proudly in demonstration of the blue moon flower's beauty. Because it's the main ingredient, the liquid gives off an iridescent type of shimmer. And the blue moon flower's natural glow gives the perfume a crystal-like illusion that is very beautiful to look at. After considering its appearance, the judges take turns spraying my perfume onto their soul bond, and also spray the fragrance into the air around us for good measure. Along with the blue moon flower, I added fragrances that depict the essence of first love, such as soft floral notes of fresh-cut flowers like jasmine and lily, mimicking the typical sensations of butterflies that people get when they first crush on another. I also added a touch of lavender. This melds well with the colder scents like vanilla and white gardenia, since new love is fresh and alluring and wakes you with a jolt of passion to chase it blindly. There are also a few aquatic notes combined to match the bluish hue of the blue moon flower that can be interpreted as the dark depths of the sea, sparkling with magic and mystery. Finally, I included a subtle hint of woody spices that creates a tiny splash of bitterness that comes through at the end, representing the understandable worries and insecurities that come with first love and getting to know someone. The judges take a moment to smell the scent, and I watch apprehensively as they silently judge, before one of them speaks. This perfume is a meld of different elements, but they all make perfect sense and create a temporary illusion of falling in love. I smile in somewhat disbelief. I'm relieved that my perfume matches the theme. I also think back to the fact that when I added a drop of my essence, I was thinking about the romantic memories I had with Marco under the blue moon tree. I can imagine those memories create a special function through my essence, creating an essence of temporarily experiencing sweet love. I have one more thing to show you, I say, before turning to one of the staff members. Please turn off the lights. As we're now surrounded in darkness, One of the judges notices how my perfume sparkles on their soul bond and the test paper. They then go ahead and spray it into the air. As my perfume diffuses into the surrounding atmosphere, it leaves a trail of dainty twinkling stars that glow fiercely in the dark. I explain this to judges as they gape in awe. My inspiration for this bottle of perfume is from my interpretation of love. Like the blue moon flower, love sometimes may appear soft and fragile, or weak in its brightness. But just like the stars, they will always shine for you. Even if the light is not as bright as the moon, you might not always see them, but they are always there. I bashfully bow as I receive a round of applause from the audience and the judges, before watching them move on to Lily's perfume. They repeat the actions of spraying the perfume and smelling and analyzing its fragrance, till the same judge that spoke to me speaks up. While the perfume is precious and elegant, it's emotionally insufficient. I watch as Lily's face pales as the judge continues. It lacks a lot of true emotion that we saw in Tanya's perfume. He says, shaking his head in disappointment. Your work this time has regressed immensely in comparison to your previous submissions. As he says this, I see Lily's fists clenching in reaction. Finally, the judges turn to one another away from both of our tables, speaking quietly amongst themselves. I see them all nodding in affirmation before one of them turns the audience and speaks. We declare Tanya the winner of the perfume competition. I stand grounded in shock. I can't believe it. I won. I can't help but notice the mixed set of emotions from the audience. Gasps ignite in their expressions, while others look incredibly upset with the outcome of the competition. I remember the bet that has been going on throughout, and I realize nearly everyone has betted on Lily, believing she would win. A man in the crowd moans as he drags a hand across his face in a deliberately aggravated facepalm of exasperation. Clearly in distress about all the money he's now lost due to my unexpected win. His friends beside him showcase the same level of upset, completely silenced by the verdict. They stew in both anger and grief. I also see a woman in and amongst the sea of shocked faces. She gapes at me, then at the judges, then at Lily, and then back at me, unable to comprehend or fathom this decided outcome. I hear her speak to another woman beside her in disbelief. But how can this be? I've been following Lily's progress and watching her competitions for so many years now. She's never lost, she exclaims, while the woman beside her nods in agreement, muttering under her breath. It's unbelievable. How can she lose to a nobody like Tanya? The crowd's surprise and unsettlement create an awkward atmosphere of muttering and silent curses, but none of them seems to bother me. I won. In earnest elation, I rush down the stage to the one person that does matter. I run into Marco's arms, giving him a massive hug as I rejoice. When I do this, finally the crowd seems to accept their losses, breaking into massive applause all around me. Buried in Marco's arms, I cherish the moment of glory as they finally cheer for me. As I hug Marco, I'm able to see over his shoulder. Somehow my gaze picks out Caspian from the rest of the crowd, probably because of the way he's staring at me. His hazel eyes glimmer with a strange form of fascination. They shine with desire as he smiles in awe directly at me, and he doesn't at any moment seem to look anywhere else but me, unwavering, and seeming like he's lost in thought as he subconsciously claps. I'm slightly frazzled by the way he's staring, but I assume it's in thanks for helping him protect his pack and saving the blue moon tree, so I smile back and offer a wave. And I can't help but chuckle as he realizes I'm looking at him. He comically jolts out of his daze, quickly adjusting the faraway look in his eyes as he smiles back and returns my wave, trying to appear more reserved in his actions of praise. Everything is going just as I hoped, and it's turning out wonderful. That's until Lily's voice rings out in the venue. Hold on, the winner of the perfume competition can't be awarded to a copycat. Everyone's eyes are on Lily as she comes to the front of the stage, and from the sidelines a professional-looking investigator steps out from the crowd, coming up to stand beside her. He holds a file and carries a bag that he sets on one of the tables, unloading its contents to reveal perfumes that he places down. I've done a detailed investigation of Malik's perfume store where Tanya used to work. My body shudders with uncertainty, standing by Marco as I turn to face Lily, while she continues addressing the judges and the crowd. These are perfume samples sold at Malik's store. She hands them out to the judges. As you'll soon realize, many of these perfumes smell exactly like my winning perfume creations from previous competitions. The previous silence dispels as the crowd mutters and whispers amongst themselves. The judges each receive a sample and take a sniff, nodding their heads in agreement, urging her to continue. I don't know how Tanya got the recipes for the perfumes, but it's clear that she has been secretly copying my work. And because of this, I hope you will reconsider awarding her the win, since a copycat doesn't deserve first place. Upon voicing her final thoughts, her gaze splits to me, maintaining a cold, polished stare that no one could discern but myself. I know on the inside, Lily is smirking at how well planned this all is. In reaction, I step away from Marco to declare my innocence. But I never stole Lily's creations. Those are all my original perfumes. Lily's investigator opens his file, handing her pages upon pages of images and notes, which she shows the crowd and judges. Particular images showcase me working there, and notes display my employee contract. Here is real identifiable proof that she was at Malik's store and worked on these perfumes herself. She was copying my work. From behind me, I hear voices, some not believing me at all, while others are too shocked to comment. Tears of mine threaten to spill as no one seems to believe me. All the evidence falls in Lily's favor, and I have nothing to show to prove myself not guilty. It's then I suddenly realize that all the trouble I've been having at the competition, all the mishaps and accidents, must have been Lily attempting to sabotage my creations and stop me from winning. I'm overcome with shock as I recall the familiar scent I smelled that day at the company's perfume display. I can't fully be sure, but if what my gut is telling me is true, then Lily may have been secretly copying my work all along. But how? Said Dean. How be? The distressing matter eventually attracts the attention of the royal family who are now involved in the trial of this incident. The massive assembly takes place at the palace, in a large room that replicates that of a courthouse, since the royal family is often responsible for carrying out major trials on matters that involve the kingdom. This must have been something exponential, as so many people are present today. I sit in a booth on my own, extremely unnerved and scared. Lily sits exactly opposite me on the other end of the room, remaining utterly calm and collected in her mannerisms. The lesser royals sit on long rows of wooden benches that encase us in an arc, and at the top of the room is a long wooden table, with a chair for each member of the ruling royal family. The king, the queen, Prince Eric, and of course Prince Marco. Hours pass as there is consistent back and forth on the truth of the matter, and no one can come to a decisive decision on the true answer. Some royals propose I should be stripped of my first place win in the perfume competition entirely. This sets my heart racing. All my hard work would be futile if Lily somehow proves I'm guilty, even if I know I'm not. Marco then stands to speak. Tanya should at least be given 3 days to prove her innocence. If after then, Tanya still can't provide evidence, it won't be too late to have another trial. I appreciate Marco's suggestion, hoping I'm granted it. But not everyone is happy about it. The room erupts into shouts and objections to the proposal while I hunch down, growing smaller and smaller in my chair, wishing I can just disappear from it all. It's then that the king yells out a command, silencing everyone, and says that the proposal will be put to a vote. Tensions rise as they go round the room, and I watch with wide eyes as Lily and I are both evenly matched. I still don't think many of the royals care for me, but I assume they maybe feel sorry for me or are unable to ignore the deathly stare Marco would give them. Finally, all who are left are the two princes. I smile softly at Marco when he raises his hand to vouch for me, but what surprises me is when Eric raises his hand too. I'm not the only one surprised. Lily too is stunned by her fiancé's actions, but quickly hides her emotions behind a facade not to showcase her reaction. Prince Eric's vote is what guarantees me my chance to find proof within 3 days. When the trial is dismissed, everyone wanders off to have their own conversations, and I walk up to Eric to thank him. Eric, thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance to prove my innocence. I lower my head in the presence of the prince, awkwardly standing as I try to express my gratitude. I've somehow understood the difference between Marco's and Eric's nature. Both are immeasurably confident males. However, Marco's confidence comes in the form of inflicting fear and inducing submission from those around him with his ruthlessness. Eric's is of a different kind. His smile somehow subdues you into trusting him, into feeling comfortable round him, even when you very well know what the Lycan prince is capable of. I think of this as he gives me his ever-so-natural gentlemanly smile. In all honesty, I want to give you time to prove yourself because I'm also curious to know the truth about this matter. Why settle it now when you could prove us all wrong? He says this with a playful tone to his voice, like the whole ordeal is entertaining to witness, which I couldn't blame him for. This is indeed a spectacle. I nod my head in a respectful manner and stand idle as he wishes me luck before being swept away by other nobles interested in conversing with him. I slowly walk to the edge of the room, looking for Marco, when I spot him in a heated argument with Lily. I pull strands of my hair behind my ear as I can't help but overhear the conversation. How could you? Even if you don't love me anymore, Marco, you should at least be honest and true to your morals. Just because you're loyal to Tanya does not mean you should endorse her lies. I'd never really seen Lily so angry before. It must have really hurt her that Marco voted for me. You've seen how hard I've worked on my perfumes for years. And now, you're ruining my entire career. Just because of her. Marco barely reacts to this, acting unbothered and uncaring to Lily's dramatics. Instead, once she finishes expressing her dismay, he outwardly chuckles with no concern for her rage. I've been to Malik's perfume store. I've smelled these perfumes in the past, Lily, he states. However, I asked Malik, and he told me that Tanya had been a part of her small pack for her entire life. How would she have access to perfumes all the way in the capital, and her learning opportunities were vastly limited too? It just doesn't make any sense of how she'd get a hold of your perfumes. Just then, Marco's demeanor changes into something much more serious. My husband takes an intimidating step towards Lily, dangerously close as he towers over her with his penetrating icy glare. She can't help but shrink from the mental pressure he exudes as he speaks. And how does an omega like Tanya, who has no wolf, steal these perfumes from you? Especially when they're not even sold publicly. He cocks his head to the right, leaning down to her in a taunt of his power. Is Tanya copying you, or is it actually the other way around? Lily is obviously flustered by Marco's presence and delivery. But I can't help but be touched by the fact that he believes me. The next day, Marco and I return to my hometown, the Black-Hide Pack, and it feels so strange to return to the place I grew up after all this time. The place hasn't changed, but I have, and I wonder who I would have been if Marco never found me. But besides this, there's an important reason why I'm here, and what I'm after is possibly the one thing that can protect my career. For every perfume I created, I wrote a manuscript detailing the design, each dated accordingly. They were all safely placed in a room not far from Malik's perfume shop. He had noticed back then how so engrossed and obsessed I was with perfumery. So he offered me a room where I could practice and keep my tools and manuscripts safe. Marco and I arrived there in no time, and he waits outside whilst I go in to get them. The room itself holds many memories, and is the place I escaped to when my family abuse got too much to bear. perfumery was my freedom. It is my freedom now more than ever. In a desperate search, I look everywhere, but I'm able to find all my manuscripts except the ones that Lily's accused of me copying. I think back to who has the keys to my room, and other than Malik, Brandon, my former boyfriend, was the only other person I shared this sacred place with. Just then, my heart plummets with dread. I hear a noise of click and turn to face Brandon, who stares at me with hunger and desire in his eyes as he holds my manuscripts in his hand. 1 hour ago. God, I needed this. I groaned. I pulled away to lounge back against the couch. She rushed to fix her disheveled hair as I picked up the phone. What? Don't tell me what. You owe me a favor. I grinned when I heard Lily's irritated voice over the phone. It had been a while since she contacted me. The last time was when she was furious at the fact that I had let Tanya find a way to leave the Black-Eyed Pack. Even though I faked being her boyfriend and stole her perfume designs. To Lily, it hadn't been good enough that, and well, Tanya marrying Prince Marco was a hilarious, but also problematic turnaround of events. In all honesty, I didn't really care. I was an alpha werewolf, and I had Alina. Course, Lily did always offer easy money. Is the pay good? You'll take what I give you, on the fact that you don't mess this up again. I rolled my eyes as she went on about how I failed the last time, but eventually I responded. Fine. What is it? I've accused Tanya of copying my perfume designs. I need you to go steal her manuscripts so that she has no way of proving her innocence. Get this done and I'll pay you good, Brandon. You must do it successfully. She can't get away with this. I will not have an Omega beat me at my own damn game. Even though Lily tried to mask her desperation through her snide remarks, I sensed the urgency of the issue. I almost felt a tad sorry for her. "Ah, you poor thing," I said mockingly, enjoying her annoying huffs that I could hear over the phone. "Don't worry about it, darling. I'll get those manuscripts. Tanya will never find them. Don't mess this up." Before I could cheekily respond, Lily hung up the phone, and all I could do was shrug. I kissed Alina one last time before telling her I'd be back to continue our little session later. Knowing exactly where Tanya had kept her manuscripts, I headed to the building and into her now abandoned room. In no time, I found the ones I was looking for, and I turned to leave, only to suddenly heard movement from down the hall. Suck, way, T. Tanya's point of view at present. Brandon steps towards me in a slow and deliberate manner, taunting me with a grin. Something in me senses the danger he poses towards me, and something in his expression suggests he isn't interested in chatting. Brandon, please. Don't. Brandon has no intention of listening to me. I'm not given the chance to scream as he lunges at me. He's too quick and slips a piece of tough fabric into my mouth and ties it behind my head, gagging me and preventing me from making any noises. My breathing accelerates as I'm fearful for my life. I'm only an Omega without a wolf, and am no match for Brandon, who's an immensely powerful alpha. And so there's nothing I can do but watch the lust that seeps into his hungry gaze that slips down my body. A wolfish grin settles on his expression that invokes terror within me. "You're so weak, Tanya," he says, sounding pleased that he has me to himself. "But I won't deny your beauty." As I struggle to keep Brandon from taking this any further, I hear Marco at the door, knocking repeatedly and calling out to me, clearly sensing that something is wrong as I've been in the room for a while now. But just as he does so, I suddenly feel an overwhelming amount of power surge through me. Almost unconsciously, I channel that energy to protect myself. Slamming my hands against Brandon, which violently thrusts him away from me, bashing his back against the wall. I quickly undo the gag. "Marco, help me quick." Aware the door is locked, my husband kicks it down with unquestionable ease, eyes blazing with readiness to defend me. But before he can attack, Brandon rushes to grab me, throwing me into Marco's arms as a form of distraction, before fleeing out of the room in a blur. No. My manuscripts, I fumble to stand, desperately wanting to go after him, but also terrified and weak from what I've just experienced. Marco pulls me back, holding me tightly against him. I let him get away. It's my fault. I let him escape with the proof I need. In sadness, I slip away from Marco's hold, stepping over to pick up my necklace. I place it gently round my neck, once again feeling a strange rush of energy in my body. Yet still unable to identify what's happening to me. I don't question it more as Marco draws my attention back to him. Your safety is of utmost importance to me, Tanya. Don't worry, I'll find your manuscripts. I'll do whatever it takes, I promise. The deadline comes upon me quicker than I hoped for. And once again, I and Lily face each other in front of everyone as we await trial. My efforts have been a disaster, and now there is no substantial way to prove my innocence to everyone. The manuscripts that Brandon stole are the only possible way of setting me free. Even though I'm aware of Lily and Brandon's entanglement that leads to my demise, I lose all sense of hope, and I nervously pick at the soul bond of my finger, in growing anxiousness. I watch as Lily's smile broadens by the minute, and the judges seem ready to convict me as guilty of stealing Lily's perfume creations. However, just when I think it's all over, Marco suddenly bursts into the courtroom. My eyes grow wide as the crowd instinctually clears a path as my husband storms towards the end of the room. In his hands, he carries papers that he slams down hard on the judges' table, declaring loudly, "Tanya is the true creator of the perfumes."